Hey everybody, today's video we are going to take a look at the Stihl brush knife. The last couple of weeks we took a look at the 8-blade, the 4-blade, and then the weed trimmer blade overview videos. So I'll put a link to those videos in the description. But today we're going to take a look at the Stihl brush knife. I'm not going to show you how to install it because we did that in the 4-blade video, and the brush knife will get installed the same way. So we're gonna skip that part. If it's something that you aren't sure of how to do or you would like to see it, you can check out that video, which again, I'll leave the link in the description below, and you can see how to do that. So without any further ado, we'll be done with this boring stuff and we will go do some trimming with the brush knife and what it's made for and what it's not made for. So if you remember in our last video, the 8-blade video, this stuff here, when we were cutting that, was getting tangled up and creating a little bit of a problem with trimming or how you would move the trimmer. So today we're going to start with this because this is what the brush knife is made for. Stuff like this, and then thorny brush, stuff like that. So we're going to start here and see how the brush knife cuts in this thicker, tangled up brush. So this thick, thorny stuff is what the brush knife is made for. So cutting stuff like this is not what the brush knife is made for. But let's see how it does. So this thicker grass behind me is also what this brush knife is not made for. So let's see how it does. So the brush knife is not made to be cutting in thick, tall grass like that. Did it do it? Absolutely. And I thought it did it rather well. Is it what I would want to use in that all day? Probably not, because I think you'd have a better choice with the 8-blade or the 4-blade, but it'll still cut it and you could still get your job done. So one good thing about the Stihl brush knife, just like the Stihl 4-blade, the brush knife is reversible and sharpenable. So it's going to help lengthen the life of your brush knife. All right, so if you can't tell by looking at my shirt, it is really hot out today. And so to sum up the video for today, we did do the overview of the Stihl brush knife. And man, I gotta tell you, when we first started trimming with it and we were using it in that the darker green brush with those little pink flowers, man, it cut through that like butter. And then once we moved down into the woods and we started cutting the thorny brush, it really did a nice job cutting that as well. So if I was going to have to choose a blade to use for clearing a dense area of brush like that, with the thorny brush in the woods like that, as of now, clearing all that brush out with thorns and stuff, that brush knife did a phenomenal job. Now, once we used it to try to cut the sapling and some of its branches, and then also just the tall grass, it did okay, but not what it's made for. So once we got it into that tall grass, yeah, sure, it cut it, and it did a fine job cutting it, and you could use it to cut that grass, but it wasn't as efficient as what you might get with your 8-blade or your 4-blade. Additionally, when I was cutting the saplings and the saplings branches, I was cutting stuff anywhere from 1/2 inch up to almost 2 inches in diameter. And while it cut the smaller diameter stuff pretty easily, as you got larger and larger in diameter, as you saw in the video, it just took longer and longer and longer to cut because it's not made for that. And at that point, you would want to switch over to one of the circular saw blades, which brings me to my next point. In our next couple videos in the next couple weeks, we're going to be taking a look at the 2 circular saw blades that Stihl has and that they offer for on your weed trimmer that'll be perfect for that. So again, if you haven't liked any of our videos or subscribed to our channel, we ask that you do that. Again, as always, God bless, have a great day.